December 4th.
Just shooting Susan an email to December 4th.
Okay. Shame on me.
Verizon time. Are we ready to begin AACS? Yes, we are. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:30. First, we have a guest in the audience, Patty Arcese. I think she might want to address something to our committee.
Hi. I just wanted to, I thought it was important to show up here personally to thank Bill Bruni and also yourself, Jack, and Mike, who I don't know who Mike is. Is he in this room?
No, he's not here.
From Skan. No, he's not here.
Okay.
But he's from Skanska, and these are the Skanska reps.
For addressing my concern last week. So I woke last Thursday morning to a large equipment truck parked in front of my home on Green Drive. And I knew immediately it wasn't there for any work in our neighborhood. I went off to the dentist and called the mayor's office and said that I thought that that truck was idling in front of my home for the Attleboro High School building project. The mayor had someone return my call, similar to what he did when the pole went in, and simply said, "This is National Grid, it's not related," which I knew to be untrue. When I got home from the dentist, they were still sitting there, and 2 additional trucks came on and were idling also in our neighborhood. And they were idling there for at least 2 hours, probably longer. And I texted Bill Rooney, probably regrets the fact that I have his phone number.
No.
But I knew Bill would not do what the mayor did and disregard my concerns. I spoke to the gentleman who was in one of the trucks, one of the 3 trucks at this point, and he was sitting on Fairway Drive, although he left his truck in front of my house to go sit in another truck. And he said, we're meeting National Grid here. And they were there for several hours. And fortunately, Mike, between Bill and Mike, my concerns were met and they were chased out of the neighborhood. And Mike indicated to me that at 11 o'clock, they were still waiting to conduct their work. So I have a couple concerns. My first concern as a neighbor, as much as I and all of my neighbors support this project and look forward to its completion and the additional value that it provides for our city, I am concerned about being disregarded by the mayor on several occasions, although I am very grateful for the fact that Jack generously and with a good humor addresses my concerns, as does Bill and as has Mike in this case. But this is not the first time this has happened in our neighborhood, and it probably will not be the last time that this happens in our neighborhood. But it's totally disrespectful, and I don't really necessarily care that this is a subcontractor and that this is National Grid. They're doing the work for the high school project. They are not replacing poles in our neighborhood. They're replacing wires and poles for this project, and they should be more respectful for the neighbors, as well as the environment. Having a truck sitting there for multiple hours idling is insane. So I just thought it was, although I was sitting in front of my fireplace, very comfortable doing some work on my laptop, I thought it was important to come here and personally thank Bill, Jack, and Mike for addressing my concerns and being open to hear those concerns.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us. The one thing I will say is that even though National Grid is doing work related to the project, we don't have any control over their subcontractors, but I'm glad that Mike from Skanska was able to prevail upon them to do the right thing. And so hopefully this work will be finished fairly shortly. Steve, the electrical work is scheduled to be finished relatively soon, right?
Yes, there's still a couple of entities that are on the existing poles that have to complete their work. And then National Grid will be working on our site or the poles that are at either end of the new run.
So,
Not within the neighborhood at all.
right, so hopefully the whole thing will end shortly and no one will be bothering you with that. But, you know, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you for hearing me.
Okay, have a good evening.
You too.
So, I guess the next thing, it's not on our agenda, but I think I will report that we met with the MSBA last Wednesday morning. They sent a delegation of 3 people. Was down to meet with the Wednesday morning group, which is the OAC meeting, architect, owner, contractor. They actually walked out on the site, which I did with them as well, and 2 observations. One is it was unbelievably cold. But if you ever do get a chance to walk out on the site now, all you'll see is some foundations and things going in. But really get a sense of the scope of the site and the massiveness of the footprint of the building when you're out there standing in the middle of it. So if you want to meet Skanska on site at any particular time and walk out and take a look at the foundations, you know, you can certainly arrange that. I think we had at least 2 people who came in who may not have signed the sign-in sheet.
With Joe, in Joe's
Mary
spot.
Ann.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have
So Mark and Andrew, have you signed in?
Craig.
No, I haven't.
Pass
Yeah,
that down.
so we'd like you to sign in. And then I think that, well, Craig's here, appearing as Joe tonight.
Joe will be here shortly.
Okay.
He was responding to something.
But I think the meeting went well with the state. I don't think there were any surprises that they told us. And I don't know if you want to add anything, Mary Ann, to that.
No, other than I think the MSBA also had stated that they thought it was a very large project and they didn't appreciate the scale until they got out to the middle of the site to see how big it truly is. This is a very large school, and they were also pleased that the project has been going as well as it's been going, with the teams collaborating together. And I think it speaks to this group as well as the consultants and the rest of us working. We consider you part of the team as well. So I think it's been a very smooth process working with the school building committee, and that has really helped us in doing our work together.
I think they did remark on the level of participation at our Wednesday meetings and I think at our SBC meetings, that we haven't gotten tired of this project yet.
No, not at all.
Which would be impossible for, I think, for all of us to be tired of participating in the largest and most transformative project in the history of the city. So, with that, there are minutes from October 9th. Jackie,
Move to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have bills to pay. So I think the mayor signed a bill for Briggs testing material, is that correct, Gail?
Same thing.
In the amount of $3,086 back on October 4th, and so we need a vote to confirm that payment.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then there are bills for Skanska, Castle Booze, Consigli, two for Consigli. I think the second one and larger one is for the construction work for bid packages 1, 2, and 3, Steve?
That's
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a couple of bills for FedEx, and so I would like to have one motion to pay all of those as a group unless someone objects to that.
So moved.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we took care of that. Then before I forget, because I wrote a note here, Steve, when he gives us the update, is going to talk about the parking lot over at Highland Park for the contractors, which will be open in hopefully less than a month. And so we have had Consigli's attorney speak with the city solicitor, and they have been drafting a license agreement. The reason for this is that at such time as substantial completion is declared for that parking lot, then it turns back over to the city. And so we have to license it back to Consigli to use it. Now, a license looks and quacks like a lease, but it's not a lease because it's revocable at any particular time, but it's going to kind of be like a lease. So they will be responsible for insuring it, for plowing it, for maintaining it, for lighting it, for all of the things that a tenant normally would do in a triple net lease. And then I think we are trying to build into that the ability on certain limited occasions over the next 3 years for the city to use it. So for instance, when high school graduation occurs, we might need overflow parking there. Next Thanksgiving, when the football game is here, we might need some overflow parking there. So I'm going to, first of all, ask if there's any questions on that topic.
By then, the electrical work that was causing a truck issue in the neighborhood across the street will be cleared up, correct?
By when? I'm sorry?
By the time this parking lot is completed. The reason I'm asking is for any utility trucks or anyone that may be so inclined to park across the street in the neighborhood, could we direct them to that parking lot in the short term to avoid these types of issues, or will all of that work be done by the time the parking lot is ready?
Well, we could absolutely direct them, but the utility companies typically need to work from their trucks, so they need them right near at the pole to get access. So, but other entities that don't need to work off their truck, yes,
Okay.
will start utilizing it.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions? Then what I'd like to do is call for a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a license agreement with Consigli for the Highland Park parking lot upon such terms as may be recommended by the city solicitor.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, on the agenda appears to be Steve's update. Oh, actually, before we get to that, let me address the electronic sign. So if you remember, a number of months ago, some of our neighbors had questioned the sign at the entrance to the school, and we had deferred that for two reasons. One was to do some further investigation, and I think a number of people did further investigation. I know I did myself, and went around and took some pictures of other high school signs. And our sign is smaller and far less obtrusive than almost every other one that we were able to find. I think the other reason was that National Grid had an issue with the sign being on top of the easement. And if you remember, we ended up changing the footing for that, so it's sitting on the ground anchored appropriately, but not with a traditional foundation. Is that a fair way of saying it,
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
So they are not requiring us to move it. And so I'm going to suggest to this committee that the sign is in the right place. It should be where we have located it. It should direct you into the school. It should be at the entrance. And I think that, at least my judgment, and I ask yours, is that this will not be a bother to this neighborhood across the street, that it will be unobtrusive, and it will serve its purpose for the city.
Jack, I would just like to reiterate the fact that, at least for the time that I've been here, this has been something that has been sorely lacking in terms of our ability to not only communicate with our school community, but to communicate with our neighbors. Important things that go on at the high school, whether it's the fall drama production or some sort of food drive that we're doing that supports the community. So I think that the fact that we're willing to put some time limits on it so that it's less obtrusive to the neighbors is certainly something that I think is going to be of benefit to the high school.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about turning it off at some point in the evening after the school events were over. And so I think we certainly want to be sensitive to our neighbors. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? Then I would ask for a motion to retain the electronic sign in its current location.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Therefore, Steve, do you want to tell us what's been going on?
Yep. We've talked about Highland up on the screen. This is about a week old on the progress, but we're making good progress. Plan is to be complete hopefully by the first week of December. So I think that's the 5th maybe, somewhere around there, 5th or 6th, the Saturday. But we hopefully might pour a section of this pave a portion of this next week, the end of next week, which is good progress. But overall, it's going well over there. A lot of the drainage structures are already installed, and you can see it taking shape here. So that's the Highland piece of it. And then if we go to the actual building footprint, again, 1 week old, but if we zoom in here, a lot of progress on both concrete foundation walls and then some footings, some interior footings. We have worked our way towards the existing building. We are held up a little bit right here based on the gas. There's a gas meter right here on the building that has to be relocated over here by Columbia Gas. We've gotten word that they're going to be here next week to do that work, which will allow us to get rid of the old foundation, the old footing that was holding up the stack, and then start the new foundation work that's roughly in this area right here, basically where it's gray, for the new school. And we've started work in here. We got some good news that the supportive excavation that was originally designed and required in here is no longer required, so that'll be some money coming back to the project based on some redesign.
And just so everyone's clear, that was supporting the trench or the foundation hole so that the current high school wouldn't fall into it?
In simple terms.
Excavation that was taking place, deep excavation taking place next to the existing school, yes.
So, we've also started working at both ends of the building. We're working basically where we are available to work, where we have space available. And the only holdup is right here, still these existing electrical lines that run through this portion of the building, which National Grid has completed installing the new poles at either end. You can see that one right there, of this run. So we have a little bit of work to do at this end, and then by the end of the week, we will be complete, and we will turn it all over to National Grid to then put wires in the underground duct bank that we've already installed, which will allow them to then take down these overhead wires in the poles and free up the rest of the foundation work. So we've started, this is, we call this A building, foundations. We're in B building, we're in C building. This is C building over here, closest to the existing school. So this work is going well. Subcontractors are doing a great job. And we've almost gotten to a point where we've prepped the entire site, the entire building footprint, which is good news. We are on schedule to have steel show up second week of January, around January 13th. We've met with them recently. We've gotten the approvals. They're fabricating the steel, so that's exciting. And then the last bit that is also the least glamorous portion is we did complete the work, or we're nearing completion of the work required for the new sewer pump station, which there's some punch list items and some items that we're completing for the wastewater department. We met with them today. There's a few things we got to clean up there to get this operational, and we've got a couple of drainage structures to add to hook this up and finalize this and get this up and running. So that'll happen within the next couple of weeks, and we will be looking to turn this over to the city to start their maintenance, and will allow access for them to do that. So that's the other item that we've made good
You'll be asking us
progress
to
on.
declare substantial completion on that aspect of the project, correct?
Excuse me?
You'll be asking us to declare substantial
Yes.
completion of the pump station.
Everything goes well, potentially next meeting,
Okay.
but we'll see.
This morning, an issue came up about the reconfigured entrance to Brennan. Do you want to discuss that while you're there?
Sure. So, now that we're installing footings and working, let me get this in a perspective that people can see. We're starting the foundations that are closest to the pump station, and as we've installed this, we've noticed that the space available to get access, to get trucks and construction materials in and out of through this section right here is very narrow. And the original intent was to create a new road. You can see some of the paving here, and then have a 90-degree turn to get down to the Brennan School. And if we complete that work now and move the fence and have the fence basically come right here and open up the sewer pump station for access, if we do that, it's gonna make this section right here even more narrow for us to get access in and around the building. So we asked the city if it would be okay if we just maintain the current access that Brennan School has for basically the next 3 years, and not have to use this new road, create this new road in order and tighten us up basically right here. And we could still provide access to the sewer pump station with, locks and keys to the sewer department, and they're okay with that. And it will not change anything that the Brennan School has been doing for the past 10, 12 years since it's been opened. It's just a different plan than what we originally said. It'll still open up when the new school opens up in 2022. That doesn't change. This section of road will open up then as well. We're just delaying moving the fence for a few years, essentially.
Okay. Had we notified the principal of Brennan that we were planning on opening the new roadway at Thanksgiving, or had we not notified that principal?
I've had a conversation with both Dr. Souza and Mr. Palmer from Studley.
So now you'll tell them that everything will stay the way it is for a longer period of time?
Yep.
Okay. Forgive me if we covered this before, but is the gas line been removed that ran across the site?
No, that cannot happen until this pump station is 100% functional, up and running.
The Columbia Gas?
I'm sorry, the
The sewer line, I
sewer line,
understand.
but there is no gas line that runs.
It didn't run across the site?
No,
think it-
no, the only gas we have is over, up against the school.
Okay, I was under the impression that we had a gas line that also ran in the old Rathbun Willard Drive.
No,
Okay, good.
no. Nope, it's just this sewer line that basically runs right under where the electrical lines are.
So that's the last thing that
Yeah,
needs to be
so the
removed.
sewer line and the electrical.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the progress? Steve, I did have a phone call today from a city councilor who would like to get access to the drone pictures.
Okay.
Are they only still, or are they video footage as well?
It's only still.
She has a friend who would like to put together a condensed timeline at the end of the project of something we could have as a city of the entire construction process. So I told her I thought that was a great idea, because I know you're sharing those pictures with
Yep.
Bill to put on Facebook and with Gail to put on the city's website. So I suggested that she contact you and arrange through you to get the pictures.
Yep, that's fine.
She can download them off the Facebook page too, if she has Facebook.
I just thought I would let Gail handle it.
I don't think Gail's busy enough.
So, then I guess moving on our agenda, the next item is a Briggs Engineering and Testing proposal. Who wants to talk about that?
It was just for additional testing services that are necessary for the project. It's related to some fire protection, I believe. Just some of the, what is it, the NFPA tests that are required. Fire is for caulking. That's what it was for. Fire stopping, fire stopping, fire saving, right. So that was in addition to the services that they had already given us a quotation for. And it's on an hourly rate.
Yeah, so basically what they did is they had given us a proposal, and it's a T&M proposal, and they didn't list rates for that particular activity. So what this is doing is approving the rate for that activity.
And you're recommending the rate they're charging?
And we're recommending that you approve. it,
Certification and
yes.
installation of fire stopping is something the building inspector will require by code.
Okay, so this is not a matter of choice.
It's not a frivolous thing, no, it's a requirement by code.
Not frivolous, Joe, but it's not even a matter of choice.
not a matter
The
of
testing
choice.
has to be
Yes,
done.
you're required to have
choice
a
is how much you
third
pay for
party
it.
do fire stopping. When we talk fire stopping, that's wherever they go through a firewall or any of that, the red caulking you see and all that stops the penetration of fire going through that. And that's what we're kind of talking about. They have to inspect all of that and approve it.
So therefore, motion would be in order to recommend to the mayor to sign the revised Briggs proposal.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, the most important thing of the evening. Bid package 4. Who's going to address that?
I think we will collectively, but Steve's gonna put the numbers up and start talking about it first, and
Yeah,
I think
so,
we can all answer questions.
So the
big
first thing
picture.
everyone should know is there's good news.
Yes, yeah, overall good news. And just to refresh everyone's memory, when we talk about trade bids, it's the public bids for the following trades, the trades that are listed up here. And
And those are
we,
pursuant to the filed sub-bidder law.
yes,
Correct.
Because there are other trades that are not subject to the filed sub-bidder law and that you procure through a different process, correct?
correct. So we're focusing on everyone that is not highlighted here tonight. We received bids for all of these scopes of work. Bids have been accepted, and we're seeking approval for these trades, and we'll get to the numbers in a second. The 3 highlighted trades require a little bit more discussion. Do we want to talk about these first or show the numbers?
No, let's talk about those first. So, Ms. Meadows, we needed a little more clarification, and at the request of the Ms. Meadow bidders, we extended the bid date by 1 week, so that they had an opportunity to respond to the clarifications that came out by addenda. The,
So those numbers are due this Friday.
they're due this coming Friday, correct, the 22nd. And then resilient flooring, we did receive a bid. It was within our budget, but we have a bid protest from the second lowest bidder who had filed a protest with the Attorney General's office. So that's why Joe was a few minutes late.
Yes.
Joe wrote a really great letter outlining why they have no standing here. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but you had a conversation with Debbie Anderson
Yes.
prior
to writing
to
the
submitting the
email to
letter.
her. And she's gonna review the conditions tomorrow, gonna review our position tomorrow morning and get back to me, let me know. Her initial feeling was that they didn't have any standing. So, but we'll, not be, I would recommend that until we have that resolved, we do not authorize the resilient flooring bid.
And if they don't have standing, that means there'd be no hearing?
Right.
Correct.
She would dismiss it.
She would dismiss it, and then we would be back here asking for authorization to.
If we lose and she does find in favor of the protester, they would have to rebid the resilient flooring spec.
And would that have an impact on schedule?
Not right now, no. It'd just be
Let's finish this.
the dollars that would be a concern, just an unknown.
And if I remember correctly, if she dismisses it, they have the right to file in Superior Court an action seeking to overturn her decision. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that the way she put it to me was that if she was going to find that it would be without merit, that she would call the lawyer and explain to him why and just basically get him to drop the protest. It doesn't make any sense to proceed.
But I am
with it.
correct that their remedy would
appeal,
be Superior
yes.
Court. But just because they would then file in Superior Court, if I again remember, that means that they would have to get an injunction to stop us from going forward and awarding the bid.
Yeah, which
And-
we don't want to go forward anyway without having this resolved, so.
Right? And the third trade? Or have we covered all three?
No.
HVAC, right?
Third trade is HVAC. I'm gonna ask Anjanette to weigh in on this, but at a higher level, we initially looked at the bid amount, and the HVAC was $7.5 million above our budget. What we then discovered, once we, sort of looked at all the numbers, that then we did our due diligence to go through and review to see if all of the bidders had provided the required documents. And in this particular case, the bidder for the HVAC, the single bidder, because we had 4 bidders drop out, had resubmitted 5 blank forms, and one of them was cause for rejection. We reviewed the forms with the Attorney General's office, and she said, it wouldn't be a fatal flaw here for 4 of the 5 forms, but the 5th form, which required them to sign an affidavit regarding their vetting of subcontractors to the sub of sub, that was grounds for rejection, and we got that in writing from Debbie Anderson, that we could not accept the bid. And,
So now you have no bids.
so we have no bids.
And as a result of that,
So as a result of that, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so,
Your work.
because it was a trade bid, we don't have to go back and do the pre-qualification process again. What we can do is we can turn it over to Consigli, and they'll go through the non-trade bid process. And just to quote from Deb Anderson, she'd said, if you can't, at first, you could try to negotiate if the dollar value comes in over what you had budgeted. If you can't reach an agreement, you do not have to requalify and are not limited to the original pool of pre-qualified bidders. This is because the law says that you follow the procurement method for non-trade contractors if you cannot reach an agreement. This non-trade procedure has no limits on whom the CM can approach, except that the awarding authority has some say over who is ultimately selected. So Consigli will be pursuing the rebidding of this bid package through non-trade
So it won't be
procurement.
it won't be a sealed public bid process. It will
Right.
be a negotiation
That's
process, correct?
That's correct. So they gave us a list last night of some of the companies that they're going to reach out to. The company that gave us the number that we had to disqualify is welcome as well to rebid. It's just going to be, they'll be rebidding within this new pool under a different set of bid circumstances. So
And we hope we can get a much better number.
Correct.
we are praying that we get a much better number.
Did we figure out why their number was so much higher than we expected?
Yes and no. And to answer your question, we have asked PM&C and Consigli to look at the 90% CD set and then the final bid set to see if there were any changes there that would have caused the price to bump. The second thing that I think it's worthy of mentioning is that independent of each other, Steve and I both received phone calls from a manufacturer saying, we know that this particular firm is the only firm bidding. And our response, because the bids hadn't gone in, I said, well, actually, nobody knows that. I said, because the bids aren't due for another hour. And we had 5 pre-qualified firms, so I cannot comment. And that's basically the position we took with them, but then the one bid came in. And they had named the firm, so I kind of think that that firm knew they were the only bidder. I don't know if that influenced their number of or not. I can't state that. It wouldn't be fair of me to say that. But they did submit a number that certainly they have the advantage of being able to very quickly review their number again and decide if there's any room for them to be more competitive.
But it would not be an unreasonable inference to draw that they knew that they were going to be the only bidder, and it may have affected their price.
Correct, correct. But I have no evidence. Hearsay.
The only,
Mary Ann, did you get any feedback from the other people that backed out of bidding?
Yes.
Why they did not bid?
Yes, and I'm gonna paraphrase, and you can comment on it as well. But our understanding is that when folks were working, and a lot of folks actually put time into working on the bid, and part of putting a bid together is figuring out staffing and manpower and hours, manpower hours required for the project. The feedback that we got from the firms is that considering their backlog and the schedule for when this work had to be completed,
Yeah.
they were concerned that they wouldn't be able to fulfill on their staffing requirements. Because it is a big project.
Yeah, a couple of the bidders had won some other work recently, and one in particular was closer to their office, and it made financial sense for them to take that work on, and then they wouldn't be able to take this on at the same time.
Now, is it possible to cut the job smaller and have 2 or more contractors? Like, give them one part of it and give another company another part of it, is that possible?
Anything's possible, but it wouldn't serve the owner well for doing that, because you would want to have one warranty for all of the
Right.
work and one
No pointing fingers.
point of contact, so to speak, with the contract. There are firms out there that are large enough to take this work on, but a lot of times there are firms that will not pursue public work, so to speak. But in a situation like this, where it's gonna be negotiated as a non-file sub-bid trade, it becomes a more attractive project.
Exactly. There's a lot of firms that were on the list that don't go after filed sub-bid work specifically for that reason. And they would be more than willing, I shouldn't say willing, they're more than able to perform this work.
Right.
Some of them have used to do schools and they walked away from it, collegiate work and all that. But because of the size of this contract, it would be appetizing to them. And so Consigli's working on their end to
Right, so-
gauge interest.
Yeah, so the next step, if we were authorized to move forward in this fashion, would be to reach out to a group of subcontractors that we feel, A, are pre-qualified for this, and B, can handle a job of this size, and it's all firms that collectively we've all had experience with. So we would gauge their interest and make sure that they have the capacity to take this on and explain exactly the situation that we're in right now, that it's open bid like any other project.
Are there any other questions? So I think we need a motion to reject the sole HVAC bidder as recommended by the Attorney General due to the defective bid.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Sounds unanimous to me. And then the other side of that coin, a motion to recommend that, to Consigli to obtain HVAC pricing pursuant to the non-filed sub-bidder process.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes. So you want to tell us about the numbers you do have?
Yes. So hopefully, everyone can see this. So these are the trades that weren't highlighted, that we did receive qualified bids, and we'd like approval tonight to move forward with these trades. So the first column here, the blue, the highlighted column here, is the award value for the particular trade. So the trade's in this column, here's the award value. Next column was the estimate from our 90% estimate reconciliation that we had with PM&C. So this is the comparison between the two. And if you look at the variance, we'll go right to the good news. That's 7.984,200 to the good. So that's a savings right now. Now, I caution to get too excited about that based on the conversation we just had about HVAC and the uncertainty with HVAC and the Miss Metals bids. Because worst case scenario, it is the $7 million issue, and this kind of gets wiped out. But either way, it's very good news at this point.
But tonight, we're sitting $7 million to the good?
7.9 to the good. Yes.
8 mil.
Yeah.
It was better to start there than the other end.
And then the last column here, or the second last column, is the subcontractor that we'd like to recommend awarding for each one of these trades here. And this column is just the square foot cost.
And it should be noted, as what Steve was saying too, is when you actually look at the total value down there of the trade bids at 52.8 million, understand that's a fairly small percentage in the big picture. So while we're at this number now, as Steve mentioned, there's a lot of balls in the air that still haven't landed yet for numbers.
Yeah, so
For the non-file.
So we talked about, this is the filed or trade bids tonight, and Jack referenced there's a whole other group of non-filed that it's the traditional bid and de-scope process that we're going to like we would on the private side. So there's still exposure on that side. We're collecting those bids as we speak. They're coming in this week, and then we have to make sure that all the scope is covered. They have the luxury of being able to exclude scope if they want to, unlike the trade bids. So they have a little more flexibility. So we have more due diligence to do on our side to make sure the scope is covered and we have the right subs on board for that. So initially, those bids are coming in favorably. So that's a good sign. But again, we don't have them all yet, so I want to be cautious and say that we're 8 million to the good there, but they're all heading in the right direction. They're all trending in the right direction. And we'll know better at next meeting where all those numbers are.
What is the total, Craig mentioned 52 million for this group.
Yep.
What's the total for the next group coming in?
52 plus 100 is, we already have 59, and so that's, I think it's 47, is that right?
In total,
That's,
we're almost at 200 million in total in terms of budget.
yeah, so we've already approved roughly
60.
59, 60 million
Yeah.
previously, plus this 50 is 110 plus
So
the,
maybe 90 million, 80, 90 million.
yeah. Somewhere between 70 and 90 mil left to award.
Of bids still to come in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, this is good
That's the
news.
reason for caution.
Yeah, and-
Yes.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's some big numbers here that we were concerned about and how they would come in. And they came in favorably, like I said, with the exception of the HVAC, like electrical, for instance, there's 3.2 in savings there. You know, so, it's good news, but we can't celebrate yet.
And then part of that vetting process will require the architect, the engineers, if relevant, and Skanska and Consigli to go through and make sure, to the best of our ability, to confirm that all the scope is there, and if it's not covered in one bidder's number, it's covered somewhere else. So there'll be places where we may have contingencies, allowances. The whole idea is to mitigate risk and assign dollars to those categories and be within budget. And so that's our goal. We're working towards that $223 million number.
But the good news is, we're still on time and under budget.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So Jack, we'd like to seek approval to award these contracts. I don't know if you need me to read them out loud or.
Yeah, why don't you read them out, and Jackie will so move.
Okay. So masonry to Lighthouse Masonry for $9,777,000.
Just do them all as a group.
Okay. Waterproofing and joint sealants, we'd like to award to Folin Waterproofing for $1,379,775. Roofing, award to Greenwood Industries for $3,583,000. Glass and glazing to Chandler Architectural Products, Inc., $517,000. Metal windows to Lockheed Window Corp. for $4,951,000. Tile to Pavilion Floors, $1,330,653. Acoustical ceilings and sound panels to K&K Acoustical Ceilings for $2,374,000. Painting to Color Concepts for $1,191,800. Elevators to Delta Beckwith for $674,000. Fire protection to Rustic Fire Protection for $2,325,000. Plumbing to Harold Brothers Mechanical for $9,105,000. And electrical to Wayne J. Griffin Electric for $15,600,000.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And just like that, we spent $52 million.
Money well spent.
You mentioned Greenwood, and that reminded me of an issue that came up this morning relating to the demo of the building we're in. Do you want to brief the committee on that?
Steve, you want?
Sure.
Okay.
So, one of the items that was in the specifications was to remove the existing roofs as asbestos-containing materials. And if that is required, it's a price tag of somewhere between $1 million and $1.3 million to do that.
Okay, but let's just be clear that that would be, the demolition work on this building is one of the non-filed subtrades, correct?
Correct.
And so that would be a contract you would be negotiating with someone, correct?
Correct. That's why there's a range. We don't know exactly how much it would cost.
Right.
So, we reached out to KBA, and they felt, then checked with the consultant, and that was in there as an error, and we'd done the research, and Skanska was actually involved with the replacement work that was done on this roof already, and there was already some abatement done on that roof. So we're fairly confident that the major abatement was taken care of. However, we have had projects in the past where similar work was done, but they didn't do a very good job cleaning, and within the flutes of the decking that the roofing sits on, material fell within those flutes and was still asbestos containing and had to be removed as hazardous material, which meant everything it was touching, which would roll into this scenario where the entire roof would go as hazardous material at the 1.3 million price tag. So we feel that it's prudent to, even though we know the work was done, to actually create some test pits to maybe test pits, test
Test
holes,
cuts.
test cuts in the existing roof, just to confirm that they are indeed clean 100%, and we don't need to spend the million to 1.3 million to abate the entire roof.
Which actually is, as I understand it, is kind of a double whammy, because one is that we would spend the money if if it was there.
Right.
But secondly, even if it isn't there when they tear this roof off, we've carried needlessly over $1 million in the budget that we don't need to, right?
Right, for 3 years until
For
we're
3
able to
years.
start the demo. Yep.
Because taking the roof off here is one of the last things that will be
Correct.
occurring. So if we do this testing and spend a few dollars now, hopefully we won't have to carry that in the demolition scope of work.
Correct.
And then we know our risk up front,
Mhm.
rather than leaving it to chance at the end.
Right.
So even after this testing is done, the roofs would have to come off individually?
There's some source separation of materials involved with demolition, but they would probably still take the building down as a whole and just kind of separate from there. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
I could phrase it a little bit differently. What I think you were asking is that if they thought it was asbestos-containing material, all abatement would be done in the building prior to the demolition of the building. So if it was deemed that the roof had asbestos, then they would have to remove that in a different manner.
Which then raises another issue that I think we discussed maybe a week ago. Are we doing some testing on this building, looking behind walls and things to see what nasty things might be there that we don't know about? Because I thought we had talked about that at the Wednesday morning meeting.
Yeah, that's the plan right now. There's a report, there was some testing done already, but we wanted to see if we could get a jump on looking behind walls and above ceilings in areas that weren't easily accessible and still aren't easily accessible now. Again, just to double check and test anything that wasn't tested prior to, again, know what we're up against and allot appropriate money and time to remove it if it is, in fact, asbestos containing.
In our report from our hazmat consultant, where he does have inaccessible spaces like plumbing chases or lab case work or things like that, he makes an assumption that it exists based on the age of the school. And so that work has been included within his estimate of the cost of the work and in the budget. So it turns out that we don't have that stuff in the walls, which I would be highly doubtful that we don't. Then that would be coming off of the budget and it would be a savings. So again, you'd be spending a little bit of money now to figure out if you had the ability to save money.
And if I remember right, we were planning on doing this during some school vacations.
Right.
So
Yep.
that we can, so teachers and students won't be in the building and they
Right.
can do the appropriate plastic and air
Yep.
testing and all the other things they do.
Exactly, and when they
right?
come back, it looks like we weren't.
So what happens if they do the testing and you determine everything looks pretty good? You take that $1 million and allot it to something else, then 3 years from now, when they're gonna take the building down, they find asbestos where you didn't test. Where's the money gonna come from to rectify that?
Contingency?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd still hold some, we wouldn't give it all back, right? For that exact reason, we've all experienced
Yeah.
it. There's gonna be something that we couldn't access or didn't even look at.
And we establish unit prices with the hazmat abatement bid, that if they do encounter something, which they, at school this age they will, then they are able to use that unit price. So we know, we don't have to negotiate the price for each incident, we know what the
Right,
unit
you still
price is
gotta
for
pay
each
for it.
one. Yeah.
Okay, anything else before we move on to the change log? Then I guess it's time for the change log.
Were you looking for approval?
They did,
Okay,
they
I'm
voted.
sorry.
Yeah, I think we're good, so I'll give this to Gail for the mayor to sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pass out the change log.
Just wanna make sure you got it right.
Hand it out so you can tell.
Oh, wait,
Thanks. I just want to get it.
no, the whole package.
So,
Thank you.
the updated log, Craig is nice enough to hand it out.
I think we have a
Craig.
quorum still, so we're okay.
Specifically, we wanted to seek approval for change order 5 tonight, which is a collection of change requests that had previously been approved, and this is just the rolling them all up into one document.
Okay, so these are the ones that are bullet pointed on our agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
and then on the,
Because some of those
Correct it.
relate to the Walsh Company,
yes.
I'm going to recuse myself and relinquish the chair and ask Scott Domenici if he would preside over the vote of those particular items. Yeah, come on up here.
Yeah, it needs to be 676. Steve. 676.
We gotta read them one by the other.
You said 674.
Move if you want to,
It's
or
supposed
read them all off, or
676.
do whatever you want to, Mr. Acting Chairman.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Are you
12,000.
looking at what I emailed you guys?
Yeah.
Are we ready?
2000.
Oh,
So do I have to ask permission, Jack, so I can read them all at once?
But yeah, I forgot to mention that, yeah.
I think whatever you feel is
Chris, kick them one more time.
All right, we'll just go through them quickly. Motion to approve change request, I gotta read these all out.
Just say 12 in the
Yeah,
amount of.
change request 12 in the amount of negative $2,955.90. Electrical work, medium voltage cable reroute.
You can do them one at a
I'm gonna do them
time.
all at once. Change request 17 for $31,438.60. Changes to emergency egress. Change request 20 in the amount of $2,231.31. Temporary conditions for pump station. Change request 23, erosion control changes in the amount of $16,692.50. Change request 24, additional light changes in the amount of $8,201.58. Change request 27, trace and reroute wiring and abandoned manhole in the amount of $7,283.69. Change request 29, ground at medium voltage lines in the amount of $3,644.30. Change request 31, Jersey barriers at Rotary and Drummond Lot in the amount of $16,080.46. Change request 32, abatement of existing water lines at Cooling Tower, T&M, in the amount of $27,141.51. Change request 36, additional exterior lighting per building inspector in the amount of $3,152.48. Change request 37, a credit for the abatement of the existing boiler stack in the amount of $27,291.34. And change request 39, testing requirements at Highland Park in the amount of $1,317.76. Total approval of change order number 5 to Consigli in the amount of $86,936.95.
So
we
moved.
have to approve the change request.
We approve the change request first?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I'll just use the total.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I was
Have
gonna ask,
discussion?
the additional light changes, number 24 and 36,
Yep.
which light changes are those?
It was like so added on the outside of the building, mostly at the new parking lots in the back near Bushy
Perfect.
Street, and on the side over on the
Yeah.
main admin side of the building.
Perfect. That's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Some of those were at the suggestion of the building inspector, and
Yes.
some of them were at the suggestion of the school department and, I think
Athletic
it's-
department.
Once
for
the lighting
football
was
game.
installed and darkness started to fall earlier in the day, people coming in and out of the parking lots noted that adding this additional lighting was more of a safety issue than anything, so.
And-
Mostly performed by the mostly asked for by the building inspector.
And none of these are changes as a result of anything major unforeseen that we think would cause any trouble down the road or anything.
No.
Explain.
I think we can safely say, and I can comment on this because it's not Walsh work, is that we're building next to an occupied building.
Right.
And so you can't anticipate everything.
Right.
And for instance, we did not think we would be creating the additional parking on the tennis courts, but we did. And so this is just living in a building for 3 years while we build another one next to it.
Anything you see on the list that says unforeseen as a condition, it's typically either below grade, something that we didn't realize was an asbestos containing material that was discovered it was and need to be removed, or something like that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And then I entertain a motion to approve change order number 5 to Consigli in the amount of $86,936.95.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you. I will, here's an agenda for you,
Oh, thank you.
and I will resume the chair. So, Steve, do you want to bring to our attention items on the change proposal log? And if I remember right, the things that are grayed out are things we've already dealt with, correct?
Correct. And also, anything with a number 5 in the second to last column is what we just talked about, so we can ignore those for now. So we'll start at number 14. So this was, to refresh people's memory, there's a soft spot, if you will, over in this area of the Bray lot, or superintendent's lot, that needed to be repaired. That work still has some remedial work left to be done, so it's not 100% complete yet, so we're not ready to seek approval on that. Then we jump down to item 28, excavation of additional loam. So we had some large pockets of, deep pockets, here for instance, of existing loam, and we had factored on a certain level, certain depth of loam, and what we're finding is there are pockets that are much deeper, and that's a concern anywhere that we have to pave or have the building over. If it's a landscape area, it's not a big deal, but if we're paving or putting a road or building over it, then it requires structural fill. So if we have a lot of extra loam, we have to take the loam out and replace it with suitable fill. And we've discovered some pockets on site that just need to be quantified and vetted out, and to make sure that we get the correct materials in there. We have unit prices for something like this, but we just don't know the total quantity yet. We also have some allowances for site work that are going to cover some of this. We just have to get to a point where we've almost discovered it all or uncovered it all, because we've basically touched the entire site at this point. So we're hoping in the next couple of weeks we have touched everything and can quantify this and nail it down. Item 30. So there's an irrigation, there's existing irrigation lines that went from this small pump house that fed the turf field and this area of the site. And rather than hitting them more than once or at several different areas, we're looking just to reroute the lines so that they're never in the way again. So we're working with Stay Green Irrigation to come up with a plan to do that.
Steve, on that one, is there going to be an impact to how you have the fencing up in order to?
No, we'll factor all that in.
Okay.
Item 33, building foundation revisions. So there was some, we talked about some redesign over in this area that eliminated the SOE and it actually eliminates some well points because we're not going so deep. But we also had some instances where we had to go the other way with the design and revise some footings and some of the concrete and the height at which we were installing things. So there's a little bit of added concrete cost there. Then we can flip it over and go to page 38. Or not page 38, item 38. So this same area, the existing underground drain that drained the pool area was found to be asbestos containing material. So that has to be abated so that we can remove it. And there's an added cost to do that.
Just so everyone knows, I think it was in the 1950s or so, they decided that everything should be made of asbestos because it was a miracle product. And now we know differently. And so when we take it out, we have to dispose of it in a different way than a traditional pipe.
And historical documents we had that the survey was based on from the city didn't show it as being asbestos, it showed it as being concrete. And so we do own the excavation and removal of a concrete pipe. We just have to pay the additional cost to abate it as asbestos-containing material.
You just answered the question I wanted to ask before I asked it, so thank you. It was, how did we not know? And that's the answer.
I think that our as-built drawings left something to be desired.
Wait.
But we're gonna have great as-bills.
Accurate. Right on. Item 40, foundation revisions at Building F, same thing. Some additional concrete work required. Item 41 and 42 are the items I spoke about earlier. It's the credits for eliminating the supportive excavation and the well points. We're hoping to see these real numbers in the next couple of days or so. And we're actually hoping that we're a little conservative here and the credits come in a little higher. But knock on wood, I didn't say that out loud. Item 43, abatement of existing irrigation lines. So over at Highland Park, where we're putting the new parking lot, the irrigation lines, again, because they're so old, were made of transite, which is an asbestos-containing material. So luckily, we didn't find a lot of it, but we did find some of it. And to remove that, there's a premium as well.
That was exposed, Steve, while you were putting in the new drainage systems and.
Correct.
And
Yes,
such.
thank
in
you.
the-
Yep.
yeah.
Next item, item 44, sidewalk reconfiguration at Rotary. So I'll pull that up.
Did we talk about that?
It's estimated.
I think we talked about that at our last meeting, but
Yeah, because it was a vote for the CCD. So this is the change for that CCD. So essentially, it is based on this new pole that was installed by National Grid. We're going to reroute the path of this sidewalk to go on the north side of the pole. So kind of where my arrow is, where my cursor is. Originally, it was going to be out in this location, but it made sense to move it on the other side of the pole. And then this actually will mark the boundary of this property here on Rome Boulevard too. So the new sidewalk, you can, if you were out there right now, it's prepped. We're looking to pave that tomorrow, hopefully. But the northern edge of that is the edge of the property for whoever owns this house in the future.
yeah, just to remind everyone, there will be additional land that we will be able to offer to that homeowner that was created by, well, we will abandon a portion of the public way on the homeowner's side of the new sidewalk. And so I think, just to recap for everyone, what we decided to do was put temporary pavement in where Steve was showing, leave the current pavement there, but then when we finally construct the final sidewalk, it will be in the right place.
Correct.
But there's
And
no
the-
reason
and
to,
the
no reason to
sidewalk-
take up the additional sidewalk.
Yeah, the sidewalk, was put in where we thought it should be based on the drawings, but we didn't have any idea where National Grid would plant that pole. And when they finally came out to plant the pole, we didn't want it to be in the private property of that neighbor. And so moving the walk is the correct thing to do. So it's gonna be in the city property rather than being in the private property.
We're doing the same thing on the other side of the street then, not because of a pole, but just to put the sidewalk in its final place and make it a wider sidewalk,
Right.
correct, Steve?
Correct. Yeah, same thing. That if we were able to see it right now, that is prepped. So this will look like just probably double the width that you see here. sidewalk, paved.
And then when the pole that's guarded by the Jersey barriers
Right.
leaves us, then the rotary will open and we will have barriers in the middle of the rotary.
Correct.
And
Similar
we
to-
also have put in the new crosswalk at Drummond and put in the barriers over there to create a
Yep.
paved area for students to walk who are walking to the middle school, correct?
Yes, that is complete. You can see that right here. You can't see the sidewalk wasn't in yet, or the crosswalk wasn't in yet, but these are the new barriers. And so same thing will be in the center of the rotary when it opens up. Similar barriers. Okay, item 45 on the list, building EK foundation wall dimension clarifications. Is exactly what it sounds like. There's some things in the drawings that were a little different, so we asked KBA to clarify, and there's a little bit of added cost there for some concrete. Item 46 is site boulder removal. So as we were digging, we found some large boulders that we had unit rates for. If it gets over a certain size, you need special equipment to chop it up, break it up, or get it off site. And we did uncover some of those. It's quite frankly a lot less than we had thought, but we did uncover a bunch, and we had unit rates for it. And that something gets measured and verified by Skanska and Consigli, and then we apply the unit rate to it for the removal off site. And again, luckily, I think we're pretty close to uncovering all of those, with the exception, again, of underneath where the power lines are. But odds are, if there's a sewer line under there, they probably got rid of the boulders when they put that sewer line in. So hopefully we're in good shape with respect to finding large boulders.
These boulders are basically, what, under the baseball field or the,
Yeah, it was kind of a mixed bag where they were. I think there was a decent amount in this area right here, so kind of toward the old field hockey field here, in this area.
And they have to be a minimum size to be qualified as being something that has to be removed by spec.
Then next, item 47 is additional field drainage, but this is at the western field, so this money would only be required if the field moves forward. Item 48, temporary requirements at pool areaway. So if we go back, there's an existing can't really see it, but down here, there's an existing areaway that allows ventilation for the pool mechanical room and the pool area that's inside this building right here. And we redesigned the footing as part of the change to eliminate the SOE and the well points. But we still have to temporarily support and modify this existing areaway. So there's a little bit of work that's required there for that. And then
Rick?
temporarily vent, we still have to vent that pool room, so there's some duct work that gets installed here as well.
The original intent was that, back when we were doing the design, that pool building would be vacant, and that the demolition of that areaway that's for ventilation would be unnecessary, but as part of the demolition contract. Now that the pool is being retained as having water in it to prevent it from popping out of the ground, the ventilation is necessary to be continued, and so in order to remove that areaway, we have to provide a duct, and that's the reason for it.
And then the last item on the list is item 49, edge of slab revisions. This is related to structural steel and upper levels of the building. There's no structural steel to show you, but where the concrete ends and where the steel helps form the slab, there's some changes to that. So there's some added cost to the structural steel subcontractor for that work. Any questions?
move on to the CCD section?
Yeah, so this is the contingency section. So These are items that do not increase the GMP. We have contingency for items like this. This is just shifting the money from the contingency bucket to a different bucket to pay for the items that are listed. Again, we can skip the gray. We can move down to number 7. Number 7 is temporarily paving the north-south Rathbun-Willard connector. You can see this truck that's on it in the picture right here. This was originally going to be gravel for the next 3 years, but we felt it'd be best to pave it now, and it helps with keeping the dirt out of the site. So there's less mud. Obviously, it's going to be easier to maintain and keep clean during the winter, and it has already made a difference on the amount of dirt that ends up out into the surrounding streets. So it just made sense, and it provides more laydown area during the winter months, and once this building started to get erected and the site gets a lot smaller. Item 8 is the premium time associated with the existing boiler stack demo. So back over at the school, we thought it all made sense to do that on a Saturday when there was no students or nobody using the facility, so there's a little bit of extra money we had to pay for that. Item 10, furnish MEP sleeves at foundation walls. So as we're doing this foundation work, we know that in the future there's going to be pipes that exit the building and enter the building at certain elevations, so we put sleeves in to prepare for that. But since we do not have the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing subs on board, we are buying these sleeves directly and installing them where they need to go. This is work that normally is bought out with those trades, and it will be bought out with them, but we obviously can't stop and hold up until they get here. So this is almost borrowing money for right now, and then we'll get credits back from the mechanical trades, because they own it as part of the drawings. They don't know that we're doing this yet. We have unit prices that we'll be able to credit it back. So this is just a snapshot to borrow money from contingency right now. Item 11 was, we had some rain a few weeks back that really hampered production, so we worked the site contractor on Saturday to make up time, and I think they had 147 truckloads going in and out that day, and it was extremely helpful and put them right back on schedule. So that premium time is just for the 5 or 6 workers that were here that day as well. Item 12, repair conduit damaged by Columbia Gas. So when Columbia Gas was over near the pump station completing their work, they hit existing lines and damaged them, so we had our subcontractor repair them.
Are they gonna be held responsible for that?
We don't know if there's recourse,
It would make sense, but
That would make sense, but
but it was work that had to be done immediately. So we had our subcontractors take care of it.
So are we filing a claim with them?
As of right now, no.
And the reason for that would be?
It is a battle that we weren't sure we wanted to fight with the
While you're waiting for
utility,
your
with the
meter to be
utility company.
installed.
I was just gonna say, what other outstanding work is there
Oh,
by
yeah.
Columbia Gas?
There's outstanding
Right,
work.
so we need them to finish.
So you'll
Move.
reconsider it after they're finished?
We certainly could. Yeah, we'd like them to complete this work over at the existing school.
Understood.
And then the last item, item 13, again, this is almost borrowing money. There was some existing poles, existing lights, kind of in this area right here, that were part of a future bid package, actually bid package 4 to be removed, but obviously we needed them removed now, so we had contractors on site now remove them, and then we'll take that money back from the Wayne J. Griffin now, the bid package 4 electrician.
Steve, it might have just been me, but I think we just kind of skipped over number 9. Is that,
Yes, we did. Not intentionally. So, again, at the sewer pump station, there was piping that was originally thought to be owned by Columbia Gas as part of their work, but they ended up not being responsible for that work. So there was a gap in scope where our sub didn't own it and Columbia Gas didn't own it, but it was required. So we had our sub do the work. So that's it. That is the update.
I see on the agenda authorizing the mayor to sign construction change directives 8, 9, and 10. Those are three things you just went over, correct? Or is that different?
They're not on here yet.
You have them.
I saw it.
Or do I have
Back page, you have 8 and 9.
10 is not on here yet.
The 10's on here, you have 8
10
and
is
10.
number 48.
So you have them not issued yet, so.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm sorry. Yeah, so 44 and 48 are two of those, and then CCD 9 is, if I remember right, it's adding concrete around the pump station. Right now, the original design was a gravel
Asphalt.
with asphalt, and now it's going to change to,
The wastewater.
no, I'm
department.
sorry, just gravel.
Gravel,
Sorry.
and changing to
And
asphalt.
change it to asphalt. yeah.
Wastewater came out and did their startup inspection of the pump station. We originally had specified the fill around that on grade to be gravel, and they requested that it be changed to asphalt, so we issued a CCD for that.
So we need a vote to approve those three CCDs?
So moved.
Number 8 is moving the sidewalk in the rotary,
Yes.
Yes.
and this is just a temporary sidewalk that's been put in?
No, it'll be the final sidewalk.
So it is the binder course. Eventually, it'll get a finished course on it, but we're gonna wait 3 years and let the binder take the abuse.
Why are they moving that to the other side of the pole, just because the pole's there? Why couldn't it be like it is now?
Because we didn't want the pole to be in the the new property line between the neighbor and the city is gonna be at the edge of the sidewalk.
So why couldn't it be set a foot in, so it
Because
comes
then you have the area between where the property line is and the sidewalk that someone has to maintain. It's not
Oh,
private
okay.
property,
Alright.
it's city property,
I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see where you're going.
so we wanted to have that
Want
distinction
the
between
homeowner
the
to mow
two.
the lawn, Jerry.
Right. Got ya.
And so once National Grid came and actually put the pole where they wanted to put it, we realized we had to move the sidewalk.
So let me ask, is any of this work in 8, 9, or 10 work of Walsh?
The sidewalk, right?
No, this is NCI that owns this work.
Yeah.
9 is not Walsh, and 10 is not Walsh. No.
Okay, then I can still preside, so,
Actually, 9,
That's the asphalt around the pump.
Oh, it's
Doing
just
that.
on the pole.
You can have,
9's asphalt around the pump.
That bid package one, but I'm not sure who you're gonna pave it.
anybody can do it.
Yeah, anyone can do the work, so no.
okay. So then, do you want a motion to authorize the mayor to sign CCD 8, 9, and 10?
Yes.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to do this evening besides set our schedule? Anybody have any new business they want to bring up? Then we are scheduled already for December 11th. And flipping over, I can see here that it looks like January 15th would be our next regularly scheduled meeting. Is that
Yep.
okay with everyone? Okay, then why don't we book those two and we'll deal with February when the time comes.
January 15th.
Not the 8th.
We can have updated numbers for the,
December 11th meeting, yes.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Can I get a fancy principal calendar?
Like this? You want this one? Or do you want one that doesn't have my pencil marks all over it?
Okay,
Okay.
if there's no other business, then a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
You guys live in
All those in
Thailand,
favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at
Yeah, I
Yeah, I know
don't
it
go to a
is.
meeting without it.
6:52.
Could I have
No, I think I gave you this one, and then it was sitting here, so I just took it. After this meeting. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Gail,
I'll have to double check.
we have a
I have it.
spam system they just put in, and your email went to the
On